was really inspired specifically by my daughter. She had a week where she was challenged out to go outside of her comfort zone. And if you know teenagers nowadays, that's a big deal because everything is about their comfort. So when they're challenged in that way, sometimes they don't always react or respond positively because it's really something that they struggle with. Everything is made and created for their comfort. And so when they're pushed out of that comfort zone, it's very extremely difficult. I think it's more difficult for them than it was for us. So this week, especially, she was challenged, and in a good way, in a good way. One of the things that I gained by listening to her is that, first of all, I learned two things. I learned one thing about myself, and I will learn something about her. The thing that I learned about Shaylin is that when she's going through something, sometimes she internalizes it. And I thought, aren't we all guilty of that sometimes? When we go through something, we internalize it because we don't want to let the people down that are closest to us. You know, they're so used to us being a certain way. So if we display anything that's sort of different, we kind of feel like they'll be disappointed. You need to let people in when you're going through things. Now, let me just preface by saying it needs to be a safe place. You don't just air out your stuff to everybody and anybody. Because for many reasons, two big ones is not everybody cares, right? And the second is even the people that do care, they may not be able to help you, and it could make a situation worse. And this week, the Lord used another peer to minister to her and to let her know that she had to open up and she had to let God in, and it was okay to be vulnerable in a safe place, because in that vulnerability you get your deliverance, you get set free. I thought about that and I said, wow, deliverance is twofold. You know, you can want your loved one to be free, you can ache for it so much so that you just, it's just physically affecting you, which is not good either. But unless they want to be free, unless they open up and allow themselves to be seen, allow those dark places to be seen so that they can be addressed, they will not be set free. And that was something that Shaylin had to understand this week. And one of her peers spoke that to her and said, you have to be open and sensitive. And when you do that, that's when God can put his finger on that thing and set you free. So I learned that by listening to my daughter share how even at some point she was feeling depressed because she had all this stuff inside of her that she was not releasing. But then when she received that word of encouragement from her peer, she realized, you know what? It's okay. I'm in a good place. I'm surrounded by people that love me. The Spirit of God is here. This is where I need to be. This is the time for me to open up and be free. Now, the second thing I learned as a parent, I learned that we have to put our kids in an environment that's conducive to them. We have to put our kids in an environment that is going to push them to where God has taken them. Now, this is a different day, whole different day from when I was growing up. You know, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. Totally different spirit, atmosphere, mindset, everything. Now, if I had been stuck, or Curtis and I had been stuck in this mindset of, well, it worked for me, it's going to work for her, she would not have been in the right place and in the right environment that was conducive to where she was going and where God is taking her. And so I learned as a parent, and I want to admonish you as a parent, sometimes we get comfortable and we mean well, but sometimes we want to be so comfortable that we forget that sometimes we have to be uncomfortable for the sake of our children. They need the tools. They need to learn how to cope. They need to have the skills. They need to be able to walk through life one day without you. And so you're really not doing them a favor when you're not willing to be uncomfortable for them. If you're not willing to put their needs in front of yours. So listening to her talk and seeing the love, the genuine love that was surrounding her, it made me thankful to God that we, Curtis and I, decided to plant ourselves where we are, because we see that it's beneficial to her. But the good thing about it was all of the years that we planted in her, all the years we exposed her to different teachings, different individuals, allowing her to be mentored by people that could pour into her and come at her or come to her and address issues from a different angle. All of those years of praying gave her the tools from parent to parent, or from parent to future parent, or parent to guardian, or parent to grandparent, whoever is listening. If you have guardianship over children, strive, do your best to put them in an environment where not only they can shine, because we want our children to shine, not only where they're celebrated, but where they're also equipped so that they can learn and gain the tools that they need to be productive citizens as adults and to manage life when life hits them. You know, when Shaylin was younger, there were many things that we shielded her from because she was young and we were still teaching her. But as she got older, we felt a shift, and we began to realize that while there are things that we still need to protect her from because she's still a minor, and we as parents became guides to guide her and say, okay, the way you handled that wasn't that great, or why do you think that didn't work, and talk her through and transition from being a parent that says yes, no, to a parent that's saying yes, no, and guiding at the same time. It's, as parents, we need to put our children in a place where they're going to get the tools that they need, and they are going to be in an environment where what we are giving them is being supplemented by other things. So in addition to doing what we were doing as a parent, we had to supplement that with outside resources, with people that would be Team Shaylin, people that would love her and support her, hold her accountable, and show up for her when she needs it. And so as parents, we have to be so mindful. And sometimes that might mean we may have to be uncomfortable. Okay? Sometimes that means we may have the decision to say no to our pride so that our children can get what they need. There's only a small window of time that we have to raise them in terms of, we'll always be the parents, right? But in terms of really setting up that foundation and building the infrastructure that they will need to complete that building and to point them in the right direction of their purpose and of their destiny. And that's another thing as parents. We need to also seek God and ask God, what is it that you've called my child to do? What is it that you desired my child to do? And then point them in that direction. Remember, you have a small window with your children, a small window to instill in them, to impart in them. Don't squander that time. Learn to put their needs above your own. Learn to swallow your pride if you have to for the sake of your children. And also put them in an environment where they feel safe so that if they're in trouble, they can reach out for help.